Picture this, you just won the galactic lottery and your prize is a free starship. Sounds incredible, right? Except the ship you're getting isn't the Millennium Falcon. It's one of the 10 vessels we're about to count down, ships that would make you question whether winning was actually losing. These are flying nightmares that would leave you stranded, stressed, or slowly losing your mind. You're about to discover which Star Wars ships look cool in the movies but would actually make you miserable within the first month. Some will cramp your body, others will drain your sanity, and few might just kill you. We're ranking the 10 ships you'd never ever want to call home. Number 10. Let's start with a ship that technically has everything you need to survive, but absolutely nothing that would make you want to. The B-Wing Starfighter is an engineering marvel, packing more firepower than ships 3 times its size. But here's the problem. Imagine living inside a rotating gyroscope with the personality of a filing cabinet. Your daily life aboard a B-Wing would be constant claustrophobia and motion sickness. The cockpit rotates independently from the main wing structure to keep you upright during flight, which sounds clever until you realize you're living inside a carnival ride that never stops. You wake up, eat, sleep, and try to maintain your sanity while the entire world literally spins around you. There's barely enough room to stretch your legs, let alone stand up. Privacy? You're sitting in a transparent canopy where anyone can watch you. Comfort is non-existent. The pilot's seat wasn't designed for sleeping. Safety is decent during combat thanks to heavy shielding, but the complex rotating mechanism is notorious for maintenance issues. Long-term livability? You'd last maybe 2 weeks before the constant spinning drove you insane. Here's something most people don't know. The B-Wing was designed by Admiral Akbar himself. The prototype was so difficult to fly that only the most skilled rebel pilots could handle it without getting sick. In Legends, some pilots reported the gyroscopic system occasionally malfunctioning during combat, leaving them spinning helplessly. The pros are simple, incredible firepower, and you're difficult to hit in combat. The cons are everything else. Cramped, disorienting, uncomfortable, and utterly miserable for anything beyond short military missions. You think that sounds rough? Wait until you see what's coming next. Number 9. The Lambda class shuttle is the Empire's go-to transport, ferrying Imperial officers between Star Destroyers and surface installations. It's recognizable, iconic, and absolutely soulless. Living aboard one would feel like residing inside a corporate office building that occasionally flies through space. Your daily routine would unfold in sterile Imperial-grade corridors that scream bureaucratic efficiency with all the warmth of a detonation block. The Lambda has 3 decks, but most of that volume is dedicated to troop transport and cargo. The crew quarters are purely functional. Think military barracks meet DMV waiting room. Comfort is marginal at best. There's a refresher and a small crew facility, but they're designed for short-haul transport duty. The privacy is minimal. The ship was built to carry up to 20 troops, so personal space was never a priority. Safety and defense are solid with decent shields and laser cannons. Reliability is excellent. The Empire wouldn't mass-produce unreliable shuttles, but livability? You'd feel like you're living inside an office park in space. Here's a detail most fans overlook. The Lambda class was specifically designed with those distinctive folding wings to intimidate during landings. When the wings fold up for flight, they create the Imperial symbol. In Legends, some Lambdas were modified with hidden compartments for ISB agents, complete with surveillance and interrogation tools. The pros? Reliable, relatively spacious, and legitimate cargo capacity. The cons? Characterless, feels like living at work, zero comfort amenities, and every time you look around, you're reminded this ship was built by an authoritarian regime. But here's where things start getting genuinely uncomfortable. Number 8. Anakin Skywalker's personal freighter, the Twilight, has personality. Unfortunately, that personality is constantly breaking down and probably going to kill you. This battered G9 Rigger class light freighter served during the Clone Wars, and you can practically hear it falling apart between hyperspace jumps. Living aboard the Twilight would be like residing in that beater RV your buddy swears is totally reliable right before the transmission falls out. Every single day would involve something breaking, sparking, or making sounds that shouldn't come from a spacecraft. The interior is cramped with narrow corridors, exposed wiring, and the perpetual smell of overheating coolant and whatever Anakin last fixed with duct tape and the Force. Comfort is essentially non-existent. Privacy is limited to closing a door, assuming it still works. Safety is terrifying because this ship takes damage like it's trying to set records. Defense capabilities are minimal, a few laser cannons that may or may not function. Reliability is the ship's biggest weakness. It's held together by hope, spare parts, and apparently the Force itself. Here's some Clone Wars lore. The Twilight was originally an impounded freighter that Anakin essentially stole and repaired because the Republic wouldn't provide him transport. He modified it extensively, which definitely voided any warranty. The ship was eventually destroyed when General Grievous shot it down over Coruscant. The pros are cargo space and multiple crew positions. The cons are catastrophic. constant mechanical failures, questionable structural integrity, minimal defenses, and the genuine possibility of dying in a completely unpredictable maintenance incident. Sounds bad? The next ship makes the Twilight look like a luxury yacht. Number 7. The Eta II Actis Interceptor is the sleek Jedi starfighter that replaced the Delta 7 late in the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan and Anakin flew these during their hunt for General Grievous, and yes, they look absolutely incredible. They're also completely uninhabitable for anything beyond emergency survival. Imagine trying to live inside a sports car with no trunk, no back seat, and no bathroom. That's the Eta II. Your living space is literally just the cockpit, a tiny bubble barely large enough for you and an astromech droid. There's no room to stand, stretch, or move your arms above shoulder height. You'd need emergency rations in your pilot seat, sleep crumpled in your pilot seat, and slowly lose feeling in your legs. The Eta II doesn't even have an internal hyperdrive. It requires an external hyperdrive ring to make jumps. Comfort is non-existent. Privacy is whatever your canopy transparency allows. Safety in combat is decent thanks to maneuverability, but one solid hit and you're done. Defense is limited to twin laser cannons. Reliability is good, but livability is absolutely zero. You could survive for a few days in an emergency, but you'd emerge cramped, sore, and psychologically damaged. Here's a lesser known detail. The Eta II was specifically designed to be smaller and more agile than the Delta 7, prioritizing combat performance over pilot survival. The cockpit space was reduced by nearly 30%, and only force-sensitive pilots could effectively use it in combat. The pros? Fast, agile, and looks incredible. The cons? No hyperdrive, no living space, no amenities, cramped beyond belief, and designed for 2-hour patrol missions by Jedis who could use the Force to ignore discomfort. But wait, the next one introduces a new kind of misery entirely. Number 6. Darth Maul's personal ship, the Scimitar, is a technological masterpiece and an absolute nightmare to actually live inside. This experimental Sith infiltrator is packed with cutting-edge stealth systems, advanced sensors, and enough dark-side energy to make your skin crawl. Your daily life aboard the Scimitar would feel like living inside a predator's lair. The interior is dark, angular, and deliberately uncomfortable, designed by Sith philosophy to keep its occupant focused, aggressive, and perpetually on edge. There's no warm lighting, no comfortable seating, and definitely no concessions to basic human psychology. The meditation chamber radiates a cold presence that would seep into your dreams. Comfort is deliberately minimized. The Scimitar has basic facilities, but everything serves function over form. Privacy is decent since the ship was built for solo operation, but that isolation cuts both ways when you're alone with the dark side ambiance. Safety and defense are exceptional. Cloaking device, powerful shields, and heavy armament make the ship nearly untouchable. Reliability is excellent. Sith engineering doesn't tolerate failure, but livability is actively hostile. The ship was designed to shape its occupants into a weapon. Here's something the movies don't show. The Scimitar was built by Rafe Sanar, who later designed the TIE fighter using Republic-era tech and Sith secrets. It featured experimental cloaking tech that was nearly impossible to detect. In Legends, the ship had a sophisticated droid intelligence programmed with Sith behavioral patterns, meaning even the computer had a malevolent edge. The pros are impressive. Cutting-edge stealth, heavy weapons, excellent systems, and genuine privacy. The cons are psychological warfare against yourself, dark side corruption, deliberately uncomfortable design, isolation, and the creeping sensation that living here is slowly changing you. Think this is dark? The next ship doesn't even pretend to care about your survival. Number 5. The TIE fighter is iconic, instantly recognizable, and an absolute death trap that doubles as the galaxy's worst studio apartment. Imperial pilots flew these by the thousands, and Imperial command considered them disposable, both the ships and the pilots. Here's your daily reality. You're sitting in a ball-shaped cockpit with no life support beyond your flight suit, no hyperdrive, no shields, and no amenities. The TIE fighter is so stripped down that even basic survival equipment was considered unnecessary by Imperial procurement. You'd be breathing recycled air from your suit, eating whatever rations you stored behind your seat, and sleeping curled into a crash couch designed for combat. The twin-ion engines scream constantly, creating noise that's physically painful without your helmet's audio dampening. Comfort doesn't exist. Privacy is whatever your viewport's polarization provides. Safety is genuinely terrifying. No shields means any hit is critical. No life support means any hull breach kills you in seconds. Defense is limited to twin laser cannons. Reliability is decent. TIE fighters are mechanically simple, but livability is measured in hours, not days. You could survive maybe 48 hours before running out of air, water, or sanity. Here's the grim economics. TIE fighters cost roughly 60,000 credits to manufacture, while training a pilot cost approximately 200,000 credits. The Empire considered the pilot more expensive than the ship, but still treated both as expendable. The lack of life support and hyperdrive wasn't an oversight, it was deliberate cost saving. The pros are speed, agility, and simple maintenance. The cons are catastrophic. No shields, no hyperdrive, no life support, maximum discomfort, constant noise, and the deep knowledge that the Empire valued your life somewhere below the cost of a decent speeder bike. But if you think that's bad, the next ship adds literal prison cells to your living nightmare. Number 4. Jango and Boba Fett's ship, renamed from Slave 1 to Firespray 31, is a feared sight across the galaxy. It's also one of the most uncomfortable places you could possibly call home. This ship was literally designed as a prison transport and patrol craft, and those origins haunt every corner. Your daily life would involve sleeping in a cockpit that rotates 90 degrees during flight, and landing, meaning down, constantly changes. Imagine trying to establish any routine when your entire concept of floor and ceiling shifts every time you take off. The living quarters include cargo holds filled with weapons, tracking equipment, and, here's the fun part, actual carbonite freezing chambers and prisoner cages. You'd literally share your home with the equipment Boba used to freeze Han Solo. Comfort is combat-oriented at best. There's a bunk and basic facilities, but everything serves bounty hunting first. Privacy exists until you remember the ship was holding cells for prisoners. Safety and defense are exceptional. Heavy armor, concealed weapons, seismic charges, and advanced countermeasures make this ship a flying fortress. Reliability is rock solid. Both Fetts depended on this ship for decades, but livability is deeply compromised by the ship's grim purpose and constantly shifting orientation. Here's Legends lore that makes it worse. The Firespray 31 design was created by Quat Systems Engineering as a prison ship for Republic judicial forces. Jango Fett stole the prototype, killed the guards, and destroyed the facility to ensure no other ships like it existed. The carbonite freezing system Boba added involved removing crew quarters to make room for more prison cells. The pros are serious. Powerful weapons, excellent defenses, reliable systems, and genuine hyperspace capability. The cons are equally serious. Rotating orientation wreaks havoc on equilibrium. The interior is designed for capturing sentient beings. Every system prioritizes violence, and you'd be living in a ship literally purpose-built for imprisonment and death. But at least the Slave 1 was meant for humans. The next one barely qualifies as a ship at all. Number 3. The Gozanti class cruiser is a common sight in Imperial service, a versatile transport that can haul cargo, carry troops, or deploy TIE fighters. It's also way too much ship for one person. Attempting to operate a Gozanti solo would be like trying to maintain and live in a commercial warehouse by yourself, except the warehouse flies and people shoot at it. Your daily routine would involve constant exhaustion from managing systems meant for a crew of 6 to 12. The ship is over 63 meters long with multiple decks, cargo bays, and attachment points for external cargo pods. You'd wake up, run diagnostics, sprint to engineering, hurry to the bridge, rush to weapons if something hostile appears, then collapse from exhaustion before starting the cycle again. The living quarters are spacious, designed for a full crew, which means you'd be rattling around in empty corridors that echo with every footstep. Comfort is decent in the crew areas. There are actual bunks, a galley, refreshers, but it's all built to military specs. Privacy is absolute since you're alone, but that isolation becomes oppressive, fast. Safety depends entirely on whether you can reach the defense systems in time. Reliability is good. Gozantis are workhorses, but maintaining one solo is overwhelming. Here's a detail most people miss. The Gozanti class was designed during the Clone Wars and saw service under the Republic before the Empire adopted it. In Legends, some freight operators who tried running Gozanti solo reported mental breakdowns from the isolation and workload. The Empire typically assigned 6 crew minimum because psychological studies showed solo operators became dangerously unstable. The pros include genuine cargo capacity, proper living facilities, hyperspace capability, and decent defenses. The cons are crushing. Workload meant for 6 people falls on you. Isolation in empty corridors destroys mental health. Systems constantly need attention you can't provide, and the sheer loneliness would break most people within half a year. Think that's psychologically destructive? Wait until you see what happens when you scale up even further. Number 2. The Sentinel class landing craft is the Empire's heavy-duty troop transport, a blocky aggressive ship designed to ram through planetary defenses and deposit stormtroopers into combat zones. It's also an absolutely miserable place to exist for any length of time, combining military sterility with the charming atmosphere of a prisoner transport. Living aboard a Sentinel would feel like residing in a mobile detention center. The interior is dominated by troop compartment space designed to hold dozens of stormtroopers in standing room only conditions. There's zero consideration for comfort. Everything is hard metal surfaces, industrial lighting, and the constant smell of recycled air mixed with weapon lubricant. The crew quarters are minimal bunks and cramped spaces because the Empire assumed Sentinel crews would rotate shifts from nearby Star Destroyers. Comfort is non-existent beyond basic survival. Privacy means closing a door to the crew cabin that feels like solitary confinement. Safety is actually pretty good. Heavy armor, shields, and multiple weapon systems make Sentinels tough to crack. Here's a dark detail from Legends. Sentinel-class ships were frequently used to transport political prisoners to detention facilities or labor camps. The troop compartments were easily converted to prison cells, and some Sentinels were permanently modified to include interrogation equipment. The number one ship on this list throws Scale itself into the nightmare category. Here it is, the absolute worst ship you could ever attempt to call home. An Imperial Star Destroyer is 1,600 meters of wedge-shaped warship designed for a crew of 37,085 officers and enlisted personnel, plus 9,700 stormtroopers. Now imagine trying to operate and live in one completely alone. This isn't just discomfort, this is psychological horror that would drive most people insane within months. Your daily life would involve waking up in officers' quarters somewhere in the superstructure, then walking through kilometers of empty corridors just to reach the bridge. Traveling from engineering to the command tower would take over an hour on foot. Every footstep echoes through vacant hallways. Every door opens to empty rooms that once held hundreds of people. Managing critical systems would be impossible. You physically cannot be in engineering, the bridge, weapons control, and hangar operations simultaneously. Something will always be breaking while you're somewhere else. The life support systems alone require constant monitoring across hundreds of sections. You'd set automated systems, pray they hold, and live in permanent anxiety about what's degrading while you sleep. Privacy is absolute and crushing. You could go weeks without seeing another living being. Safety is paradoxical. The ship has incredible shields, weapons, and armor, but you can't effectively use them solo. If hostiles appear, you'd be sprinting between gunnery stations trying to operate turbo lasers meant for entire weapons crews. Reliability doesn't matter when maintenance requires thousands of personnel you don't have. Livability is negative. This ship would destroy your mental health through isolation, impossible workload, and the surreal horror of existing alone in a space designed for nearly 50,000 people. Here's the scale that breaks your brain. An Imperial Star Destroyer has habitation space for its entire crew, meaning thousands of crew quarters, dozens of mess halls, medical bays, training facilities, rec rooms, and administrative offices. All empty. All echoing. In Legends, there's a story about a maintenance droid that went rogue on a Star Destroyer and avoided capture for 6 months simply by hiding in the endless unused sections. The pros are laughable in context. Sure, you have the firepower to level a planet, unlimited space, and complete privacy. The cons are existential. Impossible workload, crushing isolation, psychological breakdown from operating a 50,000 person ship alone, systems degrading faster than you can maintain them, and the slow realization that you're not living on a ship. You're trapped inside a mechanical tomb that would outlast your sanity. So there's your countdown. 10 Star Wars ships you'd never want to call home, ranked from uncomfortable to genuinely insane. The B-Wing spins you into nausea. The Lambda bores you into depression, and the Twilight just might kill you through mechanical failure. The Eta 2 cramps your body, the Scimitar corrupts your soul, and the TIE fighter strips away your survival. Slave 1 makes you live in a flying prison, the Gozanti drowns you in work, and the Sentinel surrounds you with authoritarian bleakness. But the Imperial Star Destroyer? That's not a home. That's a descent into madness measured in empty kilometers. Now here's the real question. If you absolutely had to choose one ship from this list to live on for a year, which one would you pick? Would you take the constant mechanical failures of the Twilight because at least it has character, or risk your sanity on the Gozanti because at least you'd have real space and systems? Drop your answer in the comments and defend your choice. I guarantee someone's going to disagree with you. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the galaxy's worst living situations, make sure you subscribe for more Star Wars deep dives that go beyond the surface level stuff everyone else covers. And if you want to see more ships analyzed, click the link in the description to watch my previous video exploring the engineering nightmares the galaxy somehow keeps flying. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you, because you'll need it if you're stuck on any of these ships.